Hi there, my name is Crystian Cruz. I'll be talking about my PhD research in design, the effects of censorship on artistic practices during the Brazilian military dictatorship. I'll start with a story that in 1972 this newspaper in Brazil wanted to cover the military coup in Chile with Pinochet, but they were not allowed to do so because the order was to have no headlines or no photos on the first page. So the editor-in-chief, Alberto Diniz, decided to be creative, and he just dropped the image, dropped the headline, and created the most iconic ever newspaper cover in Brazil. And that leads me to my research question, which is how does censorship affects creative practices, and how do artists react to that? I'm using Brazil as a case study from the military dictatorship from 64 to 85. And under that regime, that's the amount of products that used to be censored. So just an estimate of how many products were probably censored. And when I started doing my research, I realized that most of the books, they actually only cover the factual narratives of the process. And I thought that that was really hard to engage. So I decided to come up with visual storytelling techniques, also interactivity to promote engagement. And I have been looking at the emerging field of design activism as a way to provoke engagement. And just to bring a little bit of context, in Brazil now, after the elections in 2018, every week or so we have something on the news about censorship. We can blame the president of Brazil for that. And also most recently with the COVID-19, also, there's censorship and freedom of speech has been a really common topic worldwide. And the method that I've been using in my research, it covers a little bit of different techniques that they work in an interactive process. You can find more about that on my poster. And also the data collection from my research, it pretty much covers from the Brazilian National Archives and also some private collections from some publishing houses. And within that, I have been looking at more than 15,000 documents and reports over censorial activities. And I have also been conducting a few interviews. So this one, for instance, was the editor-in-chief of the biggest weekly magazine in Brazil in 1970s. During that period, just to have an idea, more than 10,000 lines of content of that magazine were suppressed. And one of my findings is that sometimes even actually the artists think that censorial intervention was not that bad because they made them to be more creative, find new ways to dribble that. And that leads to my creative practice. I decided to think if design practice can improve engagement around censorship. So I've been doing a typeface that's like a self-censoring font that uses my database of censor keywords to provoke creative responses. The letter forms came from the document that enacted censorship in Brazil. So essentially, I vectorized those shapes and converted into a digital font. And also the database of words I have been collecting from my research by looking at the archives. And I've been creating this database of words and putting that into context. And here, just to have an idea about how you can see the visualization of the font, it has different levels, so like here, always censored, only occasionally, or V2 topic, and special visualization like this one, for instance. And the second part of my creative practice is a Twitter experiment that I basically replace the font within the system with my font, so we can have an experience with Twitter with my font and get censored straight away as you type. And the third part is an exhibition. Since I decided to go on visual storytelling, there is no better way of doing that than an exhibition. So I did that in Newcastle in March 2020 at the Wattspace Gallery. And essentially, I covered the creative responses to censorship in so many different levels. I created showed a timeline of censorship and also brought my interactive typeface. And essentially, I focus a lot on the tactile and interactive gadgets around the exhibition. But you can find that more about that on my poster, and also we can talk it over as soon as I finish. So here are just the social media if you want to find more about it as well. Thank you very much.